What is going on, everybody, and welcome back. Lineman Life Podcast, your observant lineman here, Uche Waneri. Ooh, sorry for that late start. Had a new setup that I was getting ready for the office to try and give a little bit more interactivity into my podcast, but alas, technical difficulties and technology itself, it failed me. So I am back to square one. Let me adjust this even a little bit because we're a little bit high there even. There we go. All right, so we're here. Lineman Life Podcast. It is Wednesday. We are on the countdown. We're counting down. It's the final countdown. We are counting down to Kickoff 2020, opening weekend of the NFL. Seemed like we would never get here, folks. It really did. It seemed like we were not going to see football in the normal, traditional sense. Just felt like we weren't going to have a. There was a period there where we felt like things might be a little tricky. But tomorrow night we start this thing off. We got the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs. And these guys are two teams that just made some pretty big signings here in the over the last few months, I would say. Since about July 6th, Patrick Mahomes got that $500 million contract, 10-year deal with the Chiefs. Then you also had guys like Christian McCaffrey. You had guys like George Kittle, Laramie Tunsil, Joey Bosa, all these different players around the league getting paid big bags. Guys are securing the bag. They are securing the bag, y'all. But this week, Thursday night, we got Chiefs, we got Houston. Oh, feels good just to be back in it finally. Just feels good to be back to football. You know, Houston's visiting KC 8:20 tomorrow night. I'm actually doing a breakdown on both offensive lines. First part of that video will be out tonight. Look for it at 10 p.m. Going to have the Houston Texans break down their offensive line. And coincidentally enough, it's going to be against Kansas City Chiefs that they gave up a 2-score lead to in the divisional round of the playoffs last year. I think we remember that. It was a good game. It was a damn good game. But this is going to be a game that's going to kind of it's going to be an interesting matchup because there's going to be a few pieces missing, especially with DeAndre Hopkins no longer being in Houston. That's going to be a problem for these boys. But Deshaun Watson's going to go out there and he's in the ball. We know that. It's just a matter of can he get the protection he's going to need from that offensive line, and who's going to emerge as the standout in the receiving core. That's what I think it's going to boil down to, really, at the end of the day. Who is going to step up in that receiving core for Houston and show that they are willing to fill those shoes, those mighty big shoes that the absence of DeAndre Hopkins has left. Now, if you're looking at it from a better standpoint, you got an over-under 54.5. Kansas City is minus 420 on this. Houston is plus 340. So the spread being plus 9 for the Texans and minus 9 for the Chiefs. Whew. I think it's going to be I think they can cover that. I think that the Chiefs can cover that. I think that I don't know that unless they have a receiver that really emerges in Houston, that they're gonna have the kind of firepower that one would expect to see when you had a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, a guy who's reliable, who can catch the ball, who runs excellent routes. They just didn't really have that, but it's going to be a good matchup, and it's going to be good just to see guys back out on the field, all the talk, all of the all of the static noise around the game itself is now over with, and it's time to get back to football. So definitely, it is definitely going to be a much needed return to sports for much of the American population. Now, again, the offensive line for Houston was 9th in sacks last year. These guys gave up 49 sacks last year. With an athletic, fast, and elusive quarterback, they still gave up 49 sacks, 9th overall in the league. The Chiefs were somewhere. The Chiefs gave up, I think, half of that. The Chiefs gave up like 24, 25 sacks with a quarterback who is also elusive in his own right and has a big arm. Very smart. They're both smart quarterbacks. They both got good arms. They both are elusive. But that offensive line from the Chiefs, definitely a step above the offensive line in Houston. I don't think that it's going to be a situation where there's going to be a ton of, there's not going to be a ton of passing, I would think, from Houston unless they're forced into it. These guys can run a good zone scheme run game. That's been kind of their thing for years. They have solid running back core. So, that line is competent enough in run blocking to be able to get help that open up the passing game. But I just don't think that right now, because it's the start of the season and, with no preseason, things are going to look a little bit sloppy. And this Kansas City team is probably the most intact team coming out of the playoffs last year. So this is going to be a team that has a lot of chemistry that's still in full swing. They got a lot of guys on the team that they have been able to retain. They've got a decently aged team. They're not the youngest, but they're also not the oldest. They're kind of right near the middle in terms of their average age. But this is a group that's been together now since Patrick Mahomes got there, and I would expect that they're going to go out there and win this game pretty soundly, I would guess. I would say 10 points, at least 10 points. But Houston's going to come out with energy. Houston's one of those teams, if they can front run on you, they will. But if you've got firepower, their defense has been historically bad against teams that run the ball well and teams that pass the ball well even better. So, the Chiefs do both of those fairly well. So it will be there's going to be some work cut out for Houston to give themselves a chance to win, to be honest. So, but guys have been getting paid a lot of money in the NFL. We're going to start talking about just a few of the guys who've been paid. I mean, let's take a look here at Deshaun Watson, and I'm bringing him up first just because that's really, we heard about Ramsey's today, but Ramsey's on a team that didn't make the playoffs. Jalen Ramsey, if you don't know who I'm talking about. But so, Deshaun Watson was one of the biggest names that we've been waiting to see whether or not he was going to get a contract extension with the Texans, which we all knew that he would. I think it was just a matter of, what was it going to be, what were the numbers going to be, and what kind of weapons were they going to be able to keep around him, given that they're probably going to be giving him a large chunk of their salary cap, for the season. But let's take a look at this here. And, I think this is the wrong one. But we'll go through it because it's going to talk about his main. Let's go back on that. Let me pull up the right article there. Pulled up the wrong one. Okay. All right, here we go. Boom. Got that. All right, so this is the biggest. This is the other big deal that we were waiting to hear about. 4 days ago, Deshaun Watson, Texans agreed to reported 4-year, $160 million contract. And that to me is, that's really, the impressive part of this contract for me is the 4 years. And with the 4 years, he's got, just as much, almost just as much in terms of yearly income as what you see with Patrick Mahomes. Now, obviously, he's not getting that big B money, that $1 billion money, that $503 million money. But it's a hell of an agreement, a hell of a contract for a player who hasn't won a Super Bowl. A lot of the reason why you see Patrick Mahomes' contract the way it is because the guy won a Super Bowl. He got a Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP. That's a lot of leverage to go to the negotiating table with. And so you can't expect that you're going to be anywhere close to that deal. I mean, the guy's already got an MVP. He's got Super Bowl MVP. They basically came back in every game of the postseason off of his play. He is that franchise. But Deshaun Watson, let's give him his due. And this is coming out of Bleacher Report. It says quarterback Deshaun Watson signed a 4-year, $160 million contract. NFL Network reported the terms of the deal. Second largest pact in NFL history behind Patrick Mahomes, 12 years, $503 million. Deshaun Watson posted a Twitter statement, basically, talking about thanks for the money. Appreciate it. Been working hard for this. Appreciate y'all looking out for your boy. But it goes on to say Watson, 24, led the Texans to the AFC South title and a divisional round playoff appearance in 2019. His efforts in the wild-card round catapulted Houston past the Buffalo Bills despite a 16-0 second-half deficit. Watson has been sensational in a Texans uniform, completing 66.8% of his passes, 71 touchdowns with 29 interceptions in 3 seasons. He's also rushed for 1,233 yards on 217 attempts with 14 more touchdowns. And I remember this guy coming out of Clemson, and there were a lot of people who didn't necessarily see that this guy would be as accurate as he's been. They questioned whether his size, being a lanky kind of having a kind of a sprinter look to him, not so much a quarterback looked a little bit like a wideout at quarterback, but hey, this guy's come out and balled, man, and really, I like him. I dig his style. I like how he plays the game. I think he just takes over it whenever he gets in that zone, and he was just, he's been sensational for him. He's done everything they've needed and then some. The Texans in the playoffs has not been pretty for anybody who knows about their history in the playoffs. Their playoff history has not been pretty, but Deshaun Watson got paid big time, so the contract that he has here, 4 years, $160 million contract, but he's not the only one that's been out here getting paid. He's not the only one that's been out here getting paid. Him, Mahomes, Kittle, a lot of guys have gotten some good money. And, if you look here, let me share this tab. If you look here, Adam Schefter kind of gives us a little bit of a look at what a lot of these guys are going to be making this year. Guys who got new contracts this year. You got Patrick Mahomes. He's getting $45 million this year. Good Lord. Christian McCaffrey's getting 16. Kittle's getting 15. Tunsil's getting 22. Bosa's getting 27. Ramsey's getting 21. Buda Baker's getting 14.75. Guys are getting bread this year. Guys are getting brizzed. So, it's really impressive to see it like this, mainly because, with the pandemic situation, you would think that I would have thought that, teams would have tried to use that as an out of having to, open that checkbook up as widely as they possibly can. But they've opened up the checkbooks. They've opened them up. And let the cash flow like water. Guys are out here getting breaded up, and it's really, I'm happy for them. I can only be happy for them. These guys worked their asses off for it. So definitely happy to see that a lot of these players are getting paid money that they should be getting paid. It wasn't always necessarily that way for players in the past. So very good thing to see there. And, we're getting ready for football. Anybody who's joining in, if you're just getting in here, welcome. Lineman Life Podcast. Wednesday, the day before 2020 kickoff in the NFL. But there is also the NBA playoffs. And man, who would have thought that the Miami Heat have knocked out, eliminated the Milwaukee Bucks. Not only did they eliminate the Milwaukee Bucks, they embarrassed the Milwaukee Bucks. They knocked these guys out with reckless abandon, like with no mercy at all. I mean, wow. 103 to 94. That was the final coming out of the game with the Heat and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has become essentially, and call it a late riser or a late bloomer or whatever you want to call it. I've always thought that Jimmy Butler was a straight baller, but Jimmy Butler is now. He's one of the faces of the NBA. He's a superstar, bona fide now. Bona fide superstar. And he deserves it. The dude has been put through a little bit in his career. He's been put through the ringer by organizations like Chicago, Philadelphia. This guy has been nothing but a baller his entire career. All he needed was an opportunity to become a leader. And he was given that opportunity in Miami. And a lot of people scratched their heads. When Jimmy Butler signed that deal to go to Miami. They kind of wondered, well, why go to Miami? I even was like, ain't no LeBron there, ain't no Chris Bosh, ain't no D Wade. It's Wade County, but he ain't on the Heat no more. And Jimmy Butler, he knew something that we didn't. He knew something that we did not know. And now they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I'm actually going to pick the Miami Heat as a dark horse to win the title. You heard it here first. And Havoc won in the comments saying the Godfather always has a plan. I'm starting to believe it. I am starting to believe it. These boys had no business doing this to the Milwaukee Bucks. They had no business doing this. And they mashed on these cats like it was nothing. I mean, Giannis, okay, so what? Let me show you how we really get down. And that's what he did. Let me pull this up. Man, they gave them boys a beat down. These guys, I mean, and I'm going to try and pull up. I mean, look at these records. The Heat had a good record. They did. It's not like these guys were like, it isn't the Eastern Conference of the past where, your top three seeds are the only seeds with winning records. Miami actually had a good record. The Eastern Conference is vastly improved in the overall competitive levels of the conference itself. But this is a 4-1 series with a 17-loss team. I mean, this is about as about, I mean, and I hate to even bring it up because it's my hometown team. It's my squad. This is about, as to me, the Milwaukee Bucks of this 2020 season are about as disappointing as the 2000, what was it? What was that? The 2006, I want to say. No, 2006, 2007 Dallas Mavericks that lost to the Golden State Warriors in the first round, the 8 seed, and in embarrassing fashion. Yeah, this is close to that level of badness for the Bucks, just based off of expectations, which were based off of the unbelievable talent that Giannis Antetokounmpo has. I hate saying his last name, even though he's actually Nigerian. People don't know that, but his last name is that's a tongue twister. But I mean, in all reality, these Bucks were pretty much written in to at least the Eastern Conference Finals. They were written in. I know. I didn't really have any doubts. I didn't see anybody really see them stumbling up on anybody going into the Eastern Conference Finals. But these guys really blew it. And either they really blew it or Miami is just really the truth, and we didn't believe it. And now we have to believe it. And let me pull this background off. I still got this Madden background. Let's change that up. It's been a day, y'all. It's been a day, but I'm appreciating having you guys here. It's great. But I haven't watched as much NBA this year as well. I'll say this. Let me roll that back a little bit. I haven't watched as much playoff basketball as I usually do this year. For whatever reason, I just hadn't watched it as consistently as I had, almost every year in the past. I always watch the playoffs. The playoffs are always exciting in the NBA. Maybe not the first round has, one or two exciting series, but second round going into the conference finals and then the finals. That's usually where I pick it up, and I'm, especially if my Mavericks are in there. If we would have beat the Clippers, which, I mean, we could have, if we would have had Porzingis, could have been a different story for the Mavericks. But I definitely watch the playoffs with attention. I'm attentive to it when, my team's in the playoffs. But I always pay attention, somewhat at a distance until the conference finals come around. Then I'm all in. Then I'm watching every bit of it. But just a really sucks for the Milwaukee Bucks. Is Giannis going to stay? He's got one more year left on his contract. Does he really want to stay in there? And what is going to be the future like? What is the future going to be like for that franchise if he decides to leave? Are they going to blow it up? Because, I mean, it's taken these guys decades to find this kind of team and to have this kind of success. So I can't imagine that they're going to, they're going to do everything. I can only imagine that they're going to do everything that they possibly can to keep Giannis, and they'll pay him as much as it takes. I know I would. I mean, the guy is still an amazing talent. He's an all-world talent. He was playing injured, and it just didn't work out for him this year. And really, if I'm him, I do give the Bucks the benefit of the doubt. Bring in a little bit more talent, bring in a little bit more to build and to give a little bit more depth. But let's get it done next year. That's how I'd be if I was him. Now, if he decided to make a move like LeBron did and just go create a super team somewhere, that would be, that would be otherworldly dominant as well. But, I think he really does have a loyalty right now with the Bucks because he's seen that franchise grow. Like when you're there to see a franchise grow from not really being relevant to being, one of the most covered teams in the league, it does create a certain kind of loyalty amongst the players who are in the midst of that, just because, you know, this is all the hard work coming to fruition. This is all of the dedication finally paying off, and you're finally seeing the franchise enjoy and begin to learn how to live in a winning culture. And that is, I mean, that's a hard thing to capture in any sport. I mean, I was in Jacksonville 7 years. I had 3 seasons out of 7 years where we didn't have a losing record. My rookie year, my third year, and my fourth year. I believe so. But you know, a winning culture, being a team that is used to winning, that expects to win. Tell you what, man, that's you know, when you get to that point, your entire mentality about playing the sport changes. And that's something that you're seeing right now with the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat have learned how to win, and Jimmy Butler is a big part of that. He's taken the leadership reins by the horns, and he has done it in a very subtle, workmanlike way, in a very subtle, workmanlike mentality. Like he is a blue collar superstar in the NBA. He doesn't do a ton of talking. He doesn't need a ton of attention, but he just gets it done. And I think that's part of what, you know, I really respect about how he plays the game. Is the dude just goes out and balls, and he commands the respect of his teammates, and they respect him because he's proven, because every moment on that court, he proves to them that he's doing it for them. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. Now, on the other side of that, and not to take away from it, from what he does, but on the other side of that, you got a guy like LeBron James, who, you know, I'm conflicted on how I feel about this, because there are a lot of different ways you can look at it. But on one end with LeBron, I feel like for some reason he's clout chasing a lot as a player. He is chasing the legacy of greats who came before him, and he's chasing that legacy in a manner that just it's such a polar opposite from how those greats did it when they played. He is literally went on a nationwide tour over the last 10 years of different teams to play for, to try and force championships. He is trying to overwhelm the system with superstar players in order to get himself a championship. You know, he got a couple in Miami. He got one in Cleveland, which really, he was lucky to get that one. But he got one in Cleveland. He got one in, you know, he got a few in Miami, which again, we all know that was the beginning of the end of traditional 5-man basketball. But really, I feel like he's just trying to be, I feel like LeBron is trying to be something that he doesn't need to try and be. And, you know, there's also that political side of LeBron, and, you know, people have their opinions on that. Honestly, if you've been keeping up with my channel, you know, I can respect what LeBron has done off the court. You know, when you add to the quality of life experience for young kids, I have to show respect to that. The dude built a school, accredited school, recognized school by the state in Ohio, and he allows children to go to that school tuition free, and they're getting, you know, they have a bleeding edge technology school to work at and to learn at. And that's huge, folks. I mean, say whatever you want about LeBron, whether you love him, hate him, or are indifferent. He has actually which is different than a lot of people who open their mouths and talk about how self-righteous or about how everyone should be doing this or that, and putting themselves on a pedestal as people who are, who are so self-righteous that their awareness is unbelievable. But all they do is talk. LeBron has actually gone out and taken action. He's done something. And, whether it was paid, whether it was partially funded by the state or not. I mean, look, dude, I personally, as a business owner, I understand that if I am going to get involved with any federal or government institutions when it comes to my business, what my business is targeting, the government is there to provide funds for that. That's what they're there for. They do use taxpayer money, but that is what it's there for. That is the purpose of you paying taxes, so that they can take some of that money to help enrich your life. Now, do they always put that money in the right spots? No. We all know that. Do they always, delegate how much funds should be given back to, this area or that area? We know that it's never, there's not one formula that any one, local government uses, but this was actually the purpose of of your tax paying dollars. If you live in Ohio, is to help enrich our youth, their lives, their ability to succeed, their ability to become literate and educated. So, to partner with the state of Ohio, with his local representatives, their local government, and to bring this kind of thing together as an individual who is a sports star, and to help bring that to fruition, that is commendable. Even if you hate him, that's commendable, because it gives kids who may not have had that kind of quality of education, it gives them an opportunity to be educated on a more consistent and a more nuanced level. And man, nuance is something that this country is severely lacking amongst its people. People don't understand nuance. Nuance is the devil or the little details within every situation. That we know how they say the devil's in the details. That is nuance. So, do people expect the guy to pull $50 million out of his ass and just have a school built? It don't work that way. And in most people's situations, there are going to be tax loopholes that are going to allow him to write off a lot of the money that his foundation put up to help build that school. That's just how it works, folks. Are you going to get mad because he's using the system the way the system allows it to be used? I know there was another person who did the exact same thing. So if we're going to play the Game of Thrones, then play the Game of Thrones to win. Don't play it to and then complain about it. Play the game or don't. And I know I'm going on a little rant, but shit. People, I think he does get some unjust, he's villainized unjustly by some people. Is he incoherent in a lot of his messaging? Yeah, I think he is incoherent in a lot of his messaging. I really do. But does that mean to me that he's a terrible person? No, it just means he doesn't know what he doesn't always know what he's talking about. Which, hey, sorry to say, but there's a lot of people in this country who don't always know what the fuck they're talking about. So how is he really any further away from the average everyday person in this country? A lot of people go online every single day and talk shit that they have no clue about. So are we gonna rage on them too? Well, yeah, actually we are, because that's what happens in this country every time there's an election year. People go freaking crazy. People go to the extreme level of their own particular ignorance on every side of the spectrum. And that's just a fact. I've been there too. I've been there. I've been online arguing with people talking shit that I didn't necessarily know if it was true, but it sounded good. Because that's how things play out in the course of an argument when you're arguing with people. Sometimes you go to vague information and you try to rationalize the vagueness into a more articulate presentation, and that is also known as bullshitting. Yeah, we all do that. We all bullshit from now and again. So why are we going to sit here and act like it's any more serious that somebody who doesn't even have who only has a high school education? Let's remember that. That is a fact. Let's remember that. LeBron James never went to college. And even though he's a high school graduate, let's be real. I doubt he learned a ton of life knowledge in high school. So, what are we really talking about? What do we want our heroes to be? What do we want them to be? Do you want them to be heroes, or do you just want them to be entertainment? What is it going to be? I think that a lot of us need to really just calm the fuck down and think about that for a second. What do we want our heroes to be? Because if we're gonna go out and buy their shoes, if we're gonna go out and buy their jerseys and cheer them on, and go to events that they show up at, then we really, at the end of the day, can't get mad when they decide they want to talk about something else. I know one of the things I never wanted to talk about after a football game was football. I wanted to talk about video games. I wanted to talk about electronics. I wanted to talk about Star Wars. I wanted to talk about, TV shows, Boardwalk Empire, all these things I watched back in the day when I was playing. And and that is that's what players, we look for an escape ourselves. We look for an escape ourselves. We're not always, the love of the game is the love of the game for athletes in all sports. But, there is that moment in between where you just, you try to fade away from that for a little bit. But back to where, getting back on topic here, on the other side of that, LeBron, to me, is from a strictly competitive standpoint in the NBA, he has been a clout chaser in the NBA, because no matter what he does, it doesn't matter if he wins 3 more championships. People will always, especially now, losing Mamba, losing Kobe Bryant, especially now, he'll never pass that. He has a glass ceiling over his head at this moment. He will be stuck under Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant as the greatest of all time. And hey, that's what happens when the person who generally in our era of basketball has been called the greatest he's the greatest of all time for this era of basketball, which includes LeBron James in that era. When that guy passes away unexpectedly and tragically, that is now written in stone that is what he is. And I think it's fair, because he is. Kobe Bryant is the greatest basketball player of the post-Jordan NBA, period. He's got him and I would say him at 1A and Shaquille O'Neal at 1B. Those guys are the 2 greatest of the post-Jordan world. But yeah, NBA playoffs are getting a little bit interesting because Miami's they're in the finals or they're in the conference finals, and we got the Miami Heat. I'm sorry, we got the LA Lakers and the Houston Rockets. They're going toe to toe. That game was a close one-ish last night. Then you got the Raptors and who else? Who else is in there? Who's left? Raptors and Raptors in Boston. Oh man, Boston. Woo, Boston has bounced back. I'll tell you that much. Boston has bounced back because there was a point when they lost Kyrie Irving. I just kind of knew it was over with, but they actually have shown great resilience. So I commend them on that. I commend Boston on, grabbing themselves, pulling themselves up by the bootstraps and coming out and, playing their ball, playing that Boston ball. Jason Tatum, unbelievable. Been doing a dang good job. Gordon Hayward, another good player for them. Marcus Smart. You see all those guys over there. But let's check out a couple of these super chats real quick. See here, we got the Greg. Oh, the Greg is back. The Greg, my boy, my guy. What's up? The Greg for $5. I appreciate that $5 super chat. He says, preach, Uche. People always argue and not know facts. And this is a factual statement. That is not English. And not know facts. But fact is, Pats will always be greater than your Jags. The trolling continues. And then we also have Becky Browen. Becky, what's up? Thank you so much. $2 super chat. She says, you have a sticker now on Geeks and Gamers. Man, where are my Geeks and Gamers at? Where's my sticker at? I want to see that sticker. Now, if you're a member of my channel, if you're a member of the O-Line, I just put up a few more emojis, a couple of more emojis. I got an emoji on there of me pancaking a linebacker from the Houston Texans, who incidentally ended up breaking his leg on that pancake. I also have, just the logo for the channel. I just added a Patrick Mahomes emoji as well. And I'm going to have some badges that I'm getting designed here soon as well. So if you are interested, do me a favor and hit that join button and join the O-Line. We have a number of different levels that you can join in on. You can be a camp body for $199. You can be a young pup for $3.99. You can be a hog for $4.99. You can be a trench hog for $9.99 and a trench master for $19.99. Now, when these are names that we have in camp. These come straight from football. So training camp, when you're a guy who gets signed to a team, right before training camp starts, and then you get released on the first cuts of training camp, generally you were a camp body. Then you have the young pups. The young pups are the rookies. The young pups are the first year undrafted free agents. Those guys who are all wet behind the ears and they're not ready. And these guys, you see the nervousness in them on the first full pad of practice, and they're just kind of looking around like, what do we do here? What do we do? Those are the young pups. They're the guys. Those are the young cats. Then you got the hog. The hog is your offensive lineman. That's your general offensive lineman. He's a hog. Then you got a trench hog. Trench hog is usually like a starter kind of guy. Starter, a guy who's out there, who's been out there, who's got experience. Who isn't he's a guy, but he's solid. He knows what it's like to be down there in the trenches. And then you got your trench. Where was I? Trench master Did I go through Trench Hog? No. Yo, Trench Hog. Trench Hog, yeah, your starter type. Then Trench Master. The Trench Master is that's the Riley old vet. That's the Riley old vet. That's the vet that's been in there, who's been through battle after battle, who's gone to war with multiple different offensive groups. He's been out there. He's been in the overtimes. He's been in the Hail Marys. That's the Trench Master. He's a tenured he is a tenured veteran on the offensive line. That takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication. But yeah, if you're thinking about joining, that'd be a great opportunity. Hit that join button down below. Make sure you're hitting the like button. And if you haven't done so already, think about subscribing to the Observer Lineman Uche Waneri. Really appreciate that. Now, let's move on to our next topic here. What are we going on to here? Let's see. Real quickie. Oh, Charles Barkley and Stephen A. Smith. You know, and this show is on Wednesdays, so definitely, you know, we catch up on a lot of the biggest headlines. And I did a video last week about, oh, and just now that I'm seeing this right here, boom. Yes, this absolutely is a Trench Master. Josh McCown is a Trench Master. I did a video last week on Stephen A. Smith. And Stephen A. Smith, I've always thought he was an idiot. Not going to lie. Not an idiot necessarily in just that he says irrational things that don't make any sense. I always thought he was an idiot in the sense that he knows, and you can tell he knows better because he always alludes to the better thought of the particular subject he's going to speak on. He's always alluding to the better thought that really makes just as much sense and really is more grounded in reality and in logic than what he's about to say. But he's going to say what he's about to say anyways because he don't give a damn. And, you know, for anybody who didn't see, and I don't know if you guys, you know, let me see if I can find the clip here real quick. Let me see. Let me see if I can find the clip. I don't know if I'll be able to play it without the sound, you know, booming through my speakers, but we're going to see if we can find it. And then, you know, this is the clip of him going on a little bit about he's going on about Steve Nash being hired as the new head coach for the Brooklyn Nets. And it's kind of ridiculous to me because, you know what, let me play it real quick and then I'll let you then I'll explain to you guys exactly what my issue really was with it.
But his mentorship to some degree with Steph Curry, the brothers that he
hold on, let me share this. Boop. All right, now this is Stephen A. Smith. I mean, you know, when there's a precursor to a statement, and that precursor basically is the exact is the point that defeats your entire argument before you even get into it. It says something about your inability to actually like recognize that you're not using your common sense when you're talking about a certain topic. So let's hear him talk about this.
Quentin Richardson was his teammate, and he took money off his plate to make sure Quentin Richardson got paid. When he had his man Steven Jackson, his former teammate,
let me know if you guys can hear that.
Living with him and took him in and looked out.
Oh, they got me
for him.
Oh no,
the respect that he has around the league, his smarts, his intelligence, his basketball IQ. Steve Nash is a sensational dude. And if anybody deserves this opportunity, absent the experience that obviously he has as a coach, it is him. It happened for Steve Kerr, who had never coached.
All right, we're going to skip forward.
This is white privilege.
Oh, perfect.
This does not happen for a black man. No experience whatsoever on any level as a coach. And you get the Brooklyn Nets job. I know that Kyrie and KD have both signed off on this. I know they both support this move. But I'm thinking about a champion that is Ty Lue, passed up. I'm thinking about a guy who built the foundation for the Golden State Warriors in Mark Jackson, passed up. I'm thinking about the years that Sam Cassell has served as an assistant, first in the nation's capital in D.C., and now with the Los Angeles Clippers, passed up.
All right, so you kind of get the gist of what he's saying there, and I'm gonna pause it there because last night, it's doing some weird stuff, flickering like that. The picture. I don't want YouTube to be getting any ideas. So this is how this entire situation went down, and off of these comments here, this is to me, this was, and I did a video on this, go check on my TOL Daily Briefing playlist. You'll find it there. But Stephen A. Smith, his comments are asinine. His comments are asinine because he's not even aware of a lot of the data behind the Brooklyn Nets and their head coach position. The Brooklyn Nets as a team, since they became the Brooklyn Nets, these guys have had 8 head coaches. Of those 8 head coaches, 5 of them were black. 5 of their 8 head coaches in the Brooklyn Nets history have been black. 62% of your head coaches have been black. So if you knew that information, then why would you try and use white privilege as an excuse against the hiring of Steve Nash? It doesn't make sense because Steve Nash, if you are a basketball person and you understand the game of basketball, I love basketball, but I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert on basketball. But I'm sure another player in my position who knows basketball would probably say that Steve Nash is a good hire. Steve Nash is a guy who understands basketball from the mental side of it, the motivational side of it, and the pure logistics and just the overall chemistry that you need to build. He understands all of these things in spades. He's played and really been the field general of teams that have performed at the highest, success rates that as a player during his time on their team. He has multiple MVP awards. He's also worked behind the scenes with teams like the Golden State Warriors in consulting with them and helping them, for a very long time. It may not be down on paper in black and white, but he has been there. He has been in that coaching world. You just didn't know about it. And for you to come out here and say that he's being picked because he's white is just asinine. He's asinine. Look, Mark Jackson's going to be a great head coach for whatever team he goes to. Mark Jackson did build the foundation of the Golden State Warriors, but that doesn't entitle him to the Brooklyn Nets head coaching job. And the Brooklyn Nets have gone through a number of well-vetted, well accomplished, and very, very well-weathered coaches who have plenty of miles on them and have plenty of knowledge and plenty of experience, and none of that's worked for them. They've had some talent, and they've never been able to find a mesh point with their coaches. So, really, I think this was a good move because they're moving away they're going against the grain because it hasn't been working for them going with it. They're going for a coach who can bring a breath of fresh air into the franchise, who can revitalize this franchise. And I'm in agreement that he is it's a perfect. I think it's a perfect head coaching call to have him on there. I really do. So and look, people look. And again, this is one of those things where I feel like, people feel how you want. Do I think that Stephen A. Smith is, all about being woke and yada, yada, yada? Well, what is woke? Because I remember there was a point when woke was actually a thing, like a thing that made sense. Like, think for yourself. Don't be a dummy. Don't allow, what the status quo that people put out there for you to just be the status quo. Be an independent thinker. That was woke. Now, all of a sudden, woke is this combobulation of I don't know, people who don't understand what it is they want, but think that everybody should agree that it's necessary that we have it. And that is now woke. And I think that the term woke has been perverted by politics, because it wasn't about politics when you talked about being woke before. It was about just being knowledgeable. Be knowledgeable and come to reasonable conclusions based on the information you gather. That is being woke. And, I think it's weak as fuck. I think it's weak as fuck that now this whole woke thing has turned into something that has to do with race all the time. Man, people, get off the race shit, okay? Look, coming from a black man, coming from an African, is there racism in this country? Yeah, there is. You don't have to agree with me on that. I'm not going to be mad at you if you don't, because people have different life experiences, and maybe you've never come across it. I have plenty of times, and a lot of times in the similar scenarios that don't seem to warrant it, but it still ends up being there. But there's the difference between somebody who allows that to be their crutch and somebody who just, who to a certain extent ignores it. I ignore that shit. I ignore it. I am never going to allow somebody else's perspective, right or wrong, to put a negative spin on what I'm trying to do. Like, I don't go for that. But, at the end of the day, Stephen A. Smith he's playing up to the entertainment side and the herd mentality side, the mob mentality side, if you will, of what is constant in our 24-hour news cycles, and that is race baiting and just political posturing amongst people for no reason, for anything, for any little thing. And and this is a situation where it can make you look stupid, and you should know much better, because you're actually somebody who's been in this industry for upwards of 4 decades. Why? How are you not? You haven't seen anything like this happen before? I mean, come on, dude. Mark Cuban bought the Dallas Mavericks. He didn't know nothing about basketball. You don't always have to have direct experience to be able to gain a level of knowledge and understanding to be successful. And that is essentially why Steve Nash is a viable head coaching pick, because he actually is a sensible pick. He has probably one of the highest basketball IQs in the history of the NBA. Can you name me 5 players that you truly believe played the game smarter than Steve Nash did? I don't know. I wouldn't even say Jordan. Jordan has an amazing will to win. Jordan had an amazing basketball profile that you just could not overcome the strength of his game, because his will would not allow you to overcome it. He was absolutely a brilliant player, a smart player, But a lot of things that not a lot. I'm not going to say a lot because I don't know that to be true at all. But I grew up watching Michael Jordan. So, I mean, my critique would always be that it wasn't always the perfect, from an X's and O standpoint, he didn't always make the right decision, but he made the basket. And that was the difference with Michael Jordan. That is where his competitive will to be of greatness overshot any deficiencies or lackings there may have been in his basketball IQ. And Steve Nash is probably, there's very little to parallel him in that regard of basketball IQ. And but to move on in this story, Charles Barkley actually responded to this situation. And he responded in a way that I thought was absolutely spot on. You can't go to a crutch every time something doesn't happen the way that you want it to happen. You can't go to that crutch, because then there will never be a situation where you don't use it. Like, you can't overdo these things. And there's a gray area to it that a lot of people just ignore. You can't overdo these kind of you can't just reach with these kind of statements, because you discredit legitimate statements, legitimate grievances. Like, you discredit those. You make those harder to believe just on the strength of what you came out and said that made no damn sense. But here is a short clip, Charles Barkley responding to that situation. Let me let you guys hear that as well, because I thought that, man, and it's one of the reasons why I love Charles Barkley, because really, Barkley he's being real about it. And I mean, man, he's just being real about it. So let's go ahead and share this. Let me go ahead and.
I was very disappointed at some of the guys on television today talking about white privilege. Very disappointed. They're like, well, this doesn't happen to black guys. And I'm like, well, it happened to Doc Rivers. It happened to Jason Kidd. It happened to Derek Fisher. So I was really disappointed in some of those guys.
Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, I was really disappointed, guys. And Isaiah Thomas, not disappointed in Isaiah, but I just think when you have a responsibility, especially when you have to talk about something serious like race, you can't be full of crap. You got to be honest and fair. So listen, like I say, Steve Nash is a great player and a good dude, but I was so disappointed in some of these guys. So I said, dude, black guys have done this before. Now, do we need more black coaches in the NBA? Yes. Do we need more black coaches in college football? Yes. Do we need more black coaches in pro football? Yes. But this wasn't the right time to shut it today. Good luck to Steve Nash.
I mean, there you have it. I mean, whoops. And we're not going to go back into, we're not going to go back into that, because Stephen A. just didn't want to lose. He doubled down on that dumbass comment too. But Barkley is 100% correct. Like, you got to be fair about the shit. Like, you can't complain. You can't use that as the soapbox that you're going to stand on every time that something happens that you don't agree with. Look, and this is a little bit off topic, but I think it needs to be pointed out. The Oscars. This is supposed to be an award ceremony for the best in artistic in artistic creation in the movie industry, in Hollywood, if you want to just say Hollywood, right? The Oscars is mandating that you, in order to be considered for a Best Picture nomination, you have to meet inclusion standards. Is this shit charity? Like, what is this? Is this charity? Are we just handing out candy to everybody? Because if you're going to tell me as an actor that we won that Oscar because we were only allowed to be nominated for that Oscar if we hired you to meet our inclusion quota. Well, now I don't want to be in your movie. So you're not going to get that nomination unless you go hire some other sucker, because I don't want nothing. I don't want to be brought on board to check a box. What coach would want to be brought on board to check a box? That's almost just as insulting. I can live with not being good enough if I'm not good enough. And I think a lot of people, regardless of their race, feel the same way. If they're adults, if they actually are just being real with themselves, if you're not good enough for a job, you know you aren't. You know you aren't before they know you aren't. And then, there's rare cases where somebody doesn't necessarily see it in themselves, but somebody else sees it in them and they draw that out. They help nurture and bring out the greatness within them, whatever. But these people have told film creators that unless you have you have to adhere to 2 of 4 criteria in order to be considered for a nomination. And I'm just like, okay, I could actually make an argument for that if it weren't a mandate. I can make an argument if it was a guideline saying, hey, we would like to see this we would like to see this, as our industry grows. We would like to see more films that that include more, fill in the blank, whatever. Okay, that's fair. You would like to see that, in how we view movies and how we view films, and every film is different, so you have to go on a case-by-case scenario. We may consider a different movie for best film because they went that extra mile to bring a story together that is worthy of a nomination, but also at the same time, they brought a story together and they were able to be more dynamic by including more in way of their film crew, in way of their staff, in way of the actors that they cast. That might give you an extra boost to get a nomination for a best picture with the Oscars. To me, that is something that is far more reasonable, far more attainable, and will receive less backlash if these, from people who are being real about and being honest with what the situation is and how they can make it better without diminishing the quality of their product, without diminishing the quality of a movie. But this is just kind of put the nail in the coffin for this entire self-gratification, event that they have every year called the Oscars. These guys are patting themselves on the back for making good movies, which to some, yes, I absolutely do think they do deserve to be patted on the back. A movie like Parasite, that does deserve a pat on the back because that was an excellent movie. And that was a movie that was really stayed within the structure of the actual societal narratives that it was really trying to speak on. It stayed in that structure, and it did it in a very nuanced way. It went from slightly comedic, dark comedy, to slightly dramatic, to a thriller almost. And it brought all those things together in a very nice package. And that is creation. That is art. That's art in its most purest form. But you're not going to tell me that a movie is getting nominated is not going to get nominated just because they didn't have a black lead, or they didn't have a Latino lead, or they didn't have a an Asian lead or anything like that. Like, come on, man. That's just, when you start doing that, now you're just pissing people off because nobody wants to be told they have to do it or they're not going to be recognized. They're working just as hard as everybody else. If let the product speak for itself. Let the product do the talking. You don't do the talking to the product, So, I know I went a little bit off there with that, but I think that you see where things can get just a little bit too heavy-handed when you start telling people they got to do stuff because inclusion or because representation or whatever it may be. You can push for it and try to guide, the attention to be more, to be more diverse and to be more, adaptable in a sense, but don't mandate people to have to hire people because of their color. Because not only are you now creating resentment, but you're also kind of insulting the cat who walks in the door and realizes when he walks in the door that he was hired because they had to, not because they wanted to necessarily. And that, that's kind of that's insulting someone's intelligence to a certain degree, in my opinion. So, that's what it is. That's really what it is. But yeah, guys, just really, we're gonna wrap it up with that. I'm really looking forward to the NFL kickoff tomorrow night. Can't wait. I'm thinking about doing a live stream tomorrow night, so look out for your notifications for that if I decide to do it. It's just going to be a watch along. So I'll be watching the game, and obviously it won't be on the screen, but I'll be watching the game and giving you guys my commentary. It's going to be, and I think it's going to be me and Ryan Moody 21. Because we're putting together a little something for you guys with in regards to Madden NFL 21 and the kickoff for the 2020 NFL football season. So be on the lookout for your notification for that. Also, gonna be dropping my 2020 kickoff special trench warfare video tonight at 10 p.m. Be on the lookout for that. I'm gonna premiere it. So, guys will be in there to be able to live chat while I'm in there as well, watching it with you guys. But really appreciate everybody for being here on the stream. We're hitting right here at an hour and 10 minutes. Really do appreciate everybody being here. I'm not trying to do this thing with any kind of written in stone format with how I do this. I have guests on when I can have guests on. And then other times you're just going to be sitting here talking with me because we're going to be sitting here chilling and talking. And you guys know I love to talk. I love to have a conversation. So, make sure, throw a super chat in there and I'll make sure I pull you up and we'll have a second to talk about the comment that you want to leave. But, that's 100% optional. If you have a good enough comment, I may just talk about it just because, and if people were paying attention, there were a few comments that I actually went into and talked about without actually talking about the comments. So for those of you who wrote the comments, you know who you are, and because if you were paying attention, you heard me talk about it. So, but I definitely do appreciate those super chats whenever you guys want to send them in. I think that is much appreciated as well. But don't forget you can catch this podcast, the long form podcast, on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Anchor.fm, and other podcast platforms on the internet. But I appreciate everyone for being here this evening. I am about to get up out of here, but like I said, tonight, 10 p.m., if you can set a timer, jump back on my page and check it out. I think you guys are going to like this one. Trench Warfare is coming. But we will catch you guys next week. Next week, I'm expecting to have former Kansas City Chief safety actually drafted to the Kansas City Chiefs, my old teammate at Purdue University, Bernard Pollard. I'm expecting him to be on the show next week. So look out for that. I'll be making an announcement once I get everything locked in. And also here in the near future, I am also talking with the likes of the Nigerian Nightmare Christian Okoye, trying to get him to come in. He has been He's been receptive to that. We're trying to get some scheduling figured out, but he is somebody that I'm going to bring on the show here in the near future as well. And many more who are some big names that I'm kind of getting in contact with over the last week or so, who I'm trying to get some scheduling things down with as well. But with all that being said, guys, really appreciate y'all. I will catch you guys next week. Next week, we'll be back at our regular time at 3 p.m. Started an hour late today, but that was more of a technical issue situation. So we'll have that figured out by next week, and I will catch you guys then. I really appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good evening. Be safe, and I will see y'all tonight at 10 p.m. Peace out.